The stars looked different this far from Earth. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Frontier Dawn, watching the viewport as the massive alien ship came into view. It was 3 times the size of his vessel, all sharp edges and dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. He had seen pictures of Vorath ships before, but seeing one in person made his stomach tight. "They're hailing us, Captain," said Lieutenant Chris Hayes from the communications station. The young officer's voice was steady, but Jake could see the tension in his shoulders. "Put them through," Jake said. He straightened his uniform jacket and took a deep breath. This was why they were out here, millions of miles from home. To meet new species, to build bridges across the stars. The view screen flickered and changed. A face appeared that made several crew members gasp. The Vorath commander was huge, even just on screen. His head nearly touched the top of the frame. Red scales covered his face and neck, each one the size of a human thumb. His eyes were yellow with black slits for pupils like a snake. 2 curved horns grew from his forehead, polished to a dark shine. Scars crossed his face in patterns that might have been decorations or battle wounds. "I am Commander Zarkoth of the Vorath Empire," the alien said. His voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. "You have entered our territory without permission. Explain yourselves before I destroy your ship." Jake kept his face calm even though his heart was beating fast. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration vessel Frontier Dawn. We come in peace, Commander. We're explorers, not warriors. We hope to establish friendly relations with your people." Zarkoth made a sound that might have been a laugh. It wasn't a pleasant sound. "Humans. Yes, we have heard of your kind. Soft creatures from a weak world. You spread through space like insects, making noise about peace and friendship. The galaxy has no use for weakness." "With respect, Commander, seeking peace isn't weakness," Jake said carefully. "It takes strength to choose understanding over conflict." The Vorath commander's eyes narrowed. "You will come to my ship, you and 2 others. We will discuss your people's place in this sector. If you refuse, I will consider it an act of war." Jake looked at his crew. Dr. Amy Carter, their xenobiologist, gave him a small nod. She was a small woman with dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, but her eyes were sharp and curious. Ben Walker, his security chief, looked less happy about the idea. The big man had his arms crossed and was shaking his head slightly. But Jake knew they didn't have much choice. "We'll come," Jake said. "Give us 20 minutes to prepare." The screen went dark. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then everyone started talking at once. "Captain, this could be a trap," Ben said, stepping closer. "Those Vorath are known for their aggression. Every report we have says they respect only strength and violence. Which is exactly why we need to show them there's another way." Jake replied. He turned to Amy. "Doctor, are you ready for this?" Amy was already gathering her equipment. "I've been studying the Vorath for months. This is the opportunity of a lifetime, though I wish it was under better circumstances." "Ben, you're with us," Jake said. "But I want you to understand something. We're not going over there to fight. We're going to talk. No weapons unless I say otherwise." Ben looked like he wanted to argue, but he nodded. "Yes, sir. But I'm bringing my sidearm. I won't draw it unless you order it. But I'm not going onto a Vorath warship completely defenseless." Jake thought about arguing, but he knew Ben was right. "Fine, but keep it holstered and hidden. Let's not give them any reason to think we're hostile." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the shuttle bay with Amy and Ben. The rest of the crew watched from behind the safety glass. Jake could see the worry on their faces. Lieutenant Hayes gave him a thumbs up. Jake returned it, hoping he looked more confident than he felt. The shuttle ride to the Vorath ship was short. As they approached, Jake could see details he had missed before. The hull was covered in what looked like scratches and dents, but when he looked closer, he realized they were marks of battle. Thousands of them. This ship had seen more combat than any human vessel in history. The docking process was rough. The Vorath didn't seem to care much about gentle procedures. The shuttle shook and metal groaned as heavy clamps locked into place. When the airlock finally opened, they were met by 4 Vorath warriors. Up close, the aliens were even more intimidating. Each one stood over 8 feet tall, their bodies thick with muscle under their scaled skin. They wore armor that looked like it was made from some kind of black metal, decorated with symbols that might have been kill counts or rank insignia. Each warrior carried a weapon that looked like a combination of a spear and a rifle. "Follow," one of them growled. The translator in Jake's ear made the word understandable. but it couldn't hide the contempt in the alien's tone. They walked through corridors that were too tall and too dark for human comfort. The ship smelled strange, like heated metal and something sharp that made Jake's nose itch. Other Vorath passed them in the halls, and each one stopped to stare at the humans with expressions that ranged from curiosity to disgust. Amy was recording everything with her handheld scanner, her eyes wide as she took in details. Ben walked slightly behind Jake, his hand never far from where his weapon was hidden. Jake kept his posture relaxed and open, even though every instinct told him to be ready for danger. They entered a large chamber that must have been a command center. Dozens of Vorath worked at stations around the room, their clawed hands moving over controls. At the center of it all stood Commander Zarkoth. In person, he was even larger than he had appeared on screen. His presence filled the room like a physical force. "So these are the humans," Zarkoth said, walking around them in a slow circle. "You are smaller than I expected. Weaker looking. Your skin is so soft. Do you even have natural defenses?" "We have our minds," Jake said. "We have our ability to adapt and learn. We've survived and thrived on our world not because we're the strongest or the fastest, but because we're smart and we work together." Zarkoth stopped in front of Jake, towering over him. "Pretty words. But the galaxy doesn't care about words. It respects only power. The strong survive. The weak are consumed. This is the way of nature." "That's one way to see it," Jake said. "But we found another path. Yes, humans had to be tough to survive, but we also learned to cooperate, to domesticate animals, to build communities. We didn't conquer Earth alone. We did it together." The Vorath commander's laugh was like thunder. "Domesticate? You mean you make slaves of your animals? This proves my point. Domination is the way. Not slaves," Amy spoke up. Jake glanced at her, but she continued. "Partners. We formed bonds with other species on our world. Wolves became dogs, helping us hunt. We didn't break them. We found mutual benefit." Zarkoth's eyes fixed on Amy, and she seemed to shrink a little under his gaze. But she didn't look away. The commander turned back to Jake. "Your species interests me," he said. "But interest is not respect. The Vorath Empire has conquered 100 worlds. We have crushed civilizations that thought themselves mighty. You humans are new to this part of space. You will learn to bow before us, or you will be destroyed. There is no third option." "We won't bow," Jake said quietly. "And we won't fight unless forced to. We offer friendship and cooperation. We have much to share and much to learn from others." Zarkoth's face twisted into something that might have been a smile, but it showed too many teeth to be friendly. "Then I will teach you a lesson about the galaxy. I will show you what happens to those who refuse to accept their place in the natural order. You will learn fear. You will learn respect. And if you survive, you will tell your people that the Vorath are not to be challenged." He turned and shouted orders in his own language. Warriors began moving around the room with purpose. Jake felt Ben tense beside him. "What's happening?" Amy whispered. Jake didn't know, but he had a bad feeling growing in his chest. Zarkoth looked back at them, and this time his smile was definitely predatory. "You will face the Drakthor," the commander said. "Our apex predator, the unkillable beast. In 3,000 years, no creature has survived an encounter with it. Not our greatest warriors, not our most dangerous criminals, no one. And you 3 soft humans will be next." The chamber filled with the sound of Vorath laughter, and somewhere deep in the ship something roared. The Vorath warriors forced Jake, Amy, and Ben through another series of corridors. These passages were different from the ones before. The walls were thicker, reinforced with extra layers of metal. Deep scratches ran along the surfaces, gouges that looked like they had been made by something massive and angry. Some of the marks went through metal that should have been impossible to damage. Ben noticed the scratches too. He moved closer to Jake and spoke in a low voice. "Captain, those marks are deep. Really deep. Whatever made them is strong enough to tear through starship armor." Jake nodded but kept walking. He didn't have a choice. 6 Vorath warriors surrounded them, weapons ready. Even if Ben drew his sidearm, they wouldn't make it 10 feet before being cut down. Their only option was to keep moving forward and hope for an opportunity. Amy was studying everything with her scanner, her scientific mind still working even in the face of danger. "The molecular structure of these scratches suggests incredible force," she said quietly. "And they're old. Years old, maybe decades. Whatever is kept here has been trying to break out for a long time." They emerged into a massive chamber that took Jake's breath away. It was an arena, circular and huge, at least 200 feet across. The floor was made of dark metal, stained with marks that Jake tried not to think about too closely. High above, viewing platforms ringed the space, already filling with Vorath spectators. The aliens pushed and shoved each other for the best positions, their voices creating a rumble of anticipation. "Move to the center," commanded the lead warrior, shoving Jake forward with the butt of his weapon. The three humans walked to the middle of the arena. Jake looked up and saw Commander Jarkoth taking a position on the highest platform. The commander's voice boomed through speakers that must have been hidden in the walls. "People of the Vorath Empire," Jarkoth announced, "today you will witness the price of defiance. These humans came to our territory speaking of peace and cooperation. They refused to acknowledge our superiority. They claimed their way was better than the way of strength. Now they will learn the truth that all species must learn. The strong survive, the weak perish." The crowd roared its approval. Jake felt Amy move closer to him. Ben had his hand on his weapon now, though he kept it hidden under his jacket. "For 3,000 years we have kept the Drakthor," Jarkoth continued. "The ultimate predator. The unkillable beast. We found it on a world we conquered, the last of its kind. It killed 40 of our warriors before we captured it. Since then, it has served as our executioner. 3,000 criminals and enemies of the Empire have entered this arena. None have left alive, not one." Jake's mind raced. An apex predator from an alien world, kept for thousands of years and used for executions. The creature would be intelligent enough to hunt effectively, but driven mad by captivity and violence. It would know only fear and pain, taught to kill anything placed before it. "We have never tried to tame the Drakthor," Jarkoth said. "Some creatures are not meant to be controlled. They are meant to be contained and aimed at our enemies. The humans speak of domestication and partnership. Let us see how their philosophy serves them now." A massive door on the far side of the arena began to open. The metal groaned under its own weight. The sound echoed through the chamber, and the Vorath crowd fell silent. Even they feared what was about to emerge. The darkness beyond the door seemed deeper than it should be, like it was something solid rather than just the absence of light. Jake heard breathing, slow and heavy, each exhale like wind through a cave. Then he heard footsteps, but they didn't sound like footsteps should. They were too heavy, making the metal floor ring with each impact. The Drakthor emerged from the shadows. Jake had seen many animals in his life. He grew up on a ranch in Montana working with horses and cattle. He had traveled Earth and seen lions and bears and sharks. He had studied xenobiology files on dozens of alien creatures. None of it prepared him for what he saw now. The beast was enormous. Its shoulders stood 12 feet high, making it taller than even the Vorath warriors. Its body was built like a predator, all muscle and power, but its shape was like nothing from Earth. It moved on 6 legs, each one ending in claws that clicked against the metal floor. Its body was covered in scales that looked black at first, but as it moved into the light, Jake saw they shimmered with deep blues and purples, like oil on water. The head was the worst part. It was massive, dominated by a mouthful of teeth that looked like they were made of crystal or diamond. They caught the light and threw it back in sharp flashes. But it was the eyes that made Jake's blood run cold. The creature had 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows of 3. All of them glowed with an amber light that seemed to come from within. All of them were focused on the 3 humans in the center of the arena. Amy made a small sound, something between a gasp and a whimper. Her scanner was beeping rapidly, displaying data faster than she could read it. "Captain," she whispered. "The neural readings. It's not just a predator. It's intelligent. Really intelligent." The Drakthor took another step forward and the crowd above them cheered. The sound seemed to anger the beast. It raised its head and roared, a sound that was more felt than heard. The vibration went through Jake's bones, through the floor, through the very air. It was a sound of rage and pain and hunger all mixed together. Ben had his weapon out now, holding it in both hands, aiming at the creature. "Captain, I need permission to fire." Jake wanted to say yes. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to run, to fight, to do anything but stand still. But something held him back. He watched the Drakthor move, studied its body language. The creature was massive and terrifying, but there was something in the way it held itself that reminded Jake of something. The beast began to circle them, moving with a grace that shouldn't have been possible for something so large. Its 6 eyes never left them, tracking every movement, every breath. Jake noticed something. Old scars covered the creature's scales, some of them recent. others ancient. Around its neck were marks that looked like they came from chains or restraints. Deep grooves in the scales that had never properly healed. "Hold your fire." "Ben," Jake said. "Captain, with respect." "That thing is going to kill us," Ben replied, his voice tight with tension. "Maybe," Jake said. "But not yet. Look at it." Really look at it. The Drakthor was only 30 feet away now, close enough that Jake could smell it, a scent like hot metal and something organic he couldn't identify. The creature's breathing was loud in the sudden silence of the arena. Even the Vorath crowd had gone quiet, waiting for the kill. "It's not attacking," Amy said suddenly. "It should have attacked by now. That's what they trained it to do, isn't it? Kill anything in the arena. But it's not. It's observing us." She was right. The Drakthor had stopped moving. It stood 20 feet away, its massive body tense but not charging. Its 6 eyes moved between the 3 humans, studying them with an intensity that was almost uncomfortable. Jake could feel the weight of that gaze, the intelligence behind it. Above them, Commander Zarkoth's voice boomed out again. "The beast grows bored with playing with its food. Soon it will strike. Watch carefully, humans of the Frontier Dawn. Watch and learn what happens to those who defy the Vorath Empire." But the Drakthor still didn't attack. Instead, it took a step closer, then another. Each movement was careful, almost cautious. Jake realized something that made his heart beat even faster. The creature wasn't looking at them like prey. It was looking at them like it was trying to figure out what they were. "It's curious," Jake said. "After thousands of years of prisoners screaming and running and fighting, we're doing something different. We're standing still. We're not showing fear the way it expects." "I'm showing plenty of fear, Captain," Ben said, but he lowered his weapon slightly. The Drakthor took another step. It was close enough now that Jake could see details in its eyes, could see the individual scales on its face. He could see old wounds and fresh ones. He could see exhaustion in the way it held itself, despite its size and power. This creature had been fighting for 3,000 years. It had been caged and starved and forced to kill. It had known nothing but violence and pain and fear. It was alone, the last of its kind, kept alive only to serve as an executioner for a species that saw it as nothing more than a weapon. Jake understood something in that moment. The Drakthor wasn't a monster. It was a prisoner, a slave, a victim of the same philosophy that Zarkoth had tried to force on humanity, the philosophy that the strong should dominate the weak. That power was the only thing that mattered. "I'm going to try something," Jake said quietly. "Don't move. Don't do anything unless I tell you to." "Captain, what are you doing?" Ben asked, alarm clear in his voice, but Jake was already moving. He took a step forward, separating himself from Amy and Ben. The Drakthor's eyes fixed on him immediately, all 6 of them focused with laser intensity. The creature's body tensed, muscles bunching under scales. Jake took another step, then another. He was walking toward the creature that had killed thousands, toward the apex predator that had never been defeated. And he did it with his hands out to his sides, showing he had no weapons, no threat. The arena erupted in confused voices. The Vorath couldn't understand what they were seeing. Commander Zarkoth was shouting something, but Jake couldn't hear it over the blood pounding in his ears. The Drakthor's Mao Jake spoke in a low, calm voice. The words didn't matter, not really. The Drakthor couldn't understand English, and the translator wouldn't work for it. But tone mattered. Intent mattered. Every animal Jake had ever worked with understood those things, whether they were from Earth or from halfway across the galaxy. "Hey there," Jake said softly. "I know you're scared. I know you're angry. I know you've been hurt for a long, long time." The Drakthor's 6 eyes narrowed. Its massive head tilted slightly, like it was trying to understand why this small creature wasn't running, why it wasn't screaming, why it was making these soft, gentle sounds instead of the harsh shouts and threats the beast was used to. Jake made a clicking sound with his tongue, a noise he had learned as a child working with horses. It was a calming sound, rhythmic and steady. His grandfather had taught him that animals responded to patterns, to consistency, to proof that you weren't a threat. The creature took a step back, confused. Its claws scraped against the metal floor. The sound echoed through the silent arena. Above them, the Vorath watched in stunned silence. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. The humans should be dead by now, torn apart by the unstoppable predator. "That's it," Jake continued, keeping his voice low and even. "You don't know what to do with me, do you? Everyone who comes in here either runs or fights. But I'm not doing either. I'm just here. I'm just talking to you. Behind him, Jake heard Amy's scanner beeping rapidly. He hoped she was recording all of this. If he survived, her data would be invaluable. If he didn't survive, at least she would have documentation of what he tried to do. The Drakthor lowered its head slightly, bringing those 6 eyes closer to Jake's level. It was studying him intently, trying to understand this anomaly. Jake could see the intelligence in those eyes, could see the thinking happening behind them. This wasn't a mindless beast. This was a being, trapped and tormented but still aware, still capable of thought. "I grew up with animals," Jake said, still keeping his hand extended. "Horses, mostly. Big, powerful creatures that could kill a person with one kick. But they didn't want to kill. They just wanted to be understood. They wanted partnership, not domination." The Drakthor's breathing changed. The harsh, aggressive panting became slower, more controlled. Its muscles remained tense, ready to spring, but it didn't attack. It just watched, listened, waited. Jake thought about all the scars he had seen on the creature's body. He thought about 3,000 years of captivity, of being fed prisoners and criminals, of knowing nothing but violence. The Vorath had created this monster, had turned an intelligent being into a killing machine through pain and fear. "They hurt you," Jake said, and his voice carried a note of sadness now. "They took you from your world, from your family, maybe. They put you in a cage and they broke you. Or they tried to. But you're still in there, aren't you? The real you underneath all that anger and pain." The Drakthor made a sound that wasn't quite a growl. It was deeper, more complex, almost like the creature was trying to respond. Its eyes never left Jake's face. "I'm not going to hurt you," Jake promised. "I know you don't have any reason to believe that. Every other creature that stood where I'm standing came here to die or to hurt you first. But I'm different. My species is different. We don't believe in domination. We believe in respect." He made the clicking sound again, that rhythmic pattern that seemed to catch the Drakthor's attention. The creature's head tilted the other way now, and one of its 6 eyes blinked independently of the others. It was a strangely endearing gesture, making the massive predator seem almost curious rather than threatening. Jake began to slowly stand up, moving with careful deliberation. The Drakthor tensed immediately, a warning growl building in its chest. But Jake kept his movements slow and non-threatening, kept talking in that same calm voice. "It's okay," he said. "I'm just standing up. I'm not attacking. See, no weapons, no threat, just me trying to talk to you." Commander Zharkoth's voice suddenly boomed through the arena speakers. "What is this trickery? What technology are you using, human? The Drakthor cannot be calmed. It cannot be reasoned with. It is a force of nature, a weapon of death." Jake didn't look up at the commander. He kept his attention focused on the creature in front of him. "That's where you're wrong," he called back. "You never tried to understand it. You only tried to use it. There's a difference." The Drakthor's attention shifted briefly to the viewing platforms above, to the source of Zharkoth's voice. Its expression changed, and Jake recognized what he saw there. Anger, hatred. This creature knew who its tormentors were. It knew the Vorath, knew their cruelty, knew their violence. "Look at me," Jake said gently. And amazingly, the Drakthor's attention came back to him. "Not them, me. We're the ones down here together. Just you and me, trying to understand each other." He took a small step forward. The creature didn't move back this time. Its 6 eyes tracked the movement, but it held its ground. Jake took another step, then another, until he was close enough to touch the beast if he reached out. "Captain, be careful," Amy called out softly from behind him. Her voice was tight with fear but also with fascination. Jake could imagine her scientific mind racing, trying to document and understand what was happening. "I know what I'm doing," Jake replied, though he wasn't entirely sure that was true. He was operating on instinct now, on decades of experience with animals, on a gut feeling that this could work, that this had to work. He extended his hand again, closer now, close enough that the Drakthor could bite it off without effort. His fingers were steady despite the fear coursing through his body. The creature stared at his hand, tilting its head again in that curious gesture. "It's okay," Jake whispered. "I'm not going to hurt you. And I think you know you don't want to hurt me. You're tired of hurting. You're tired of killing. You just want it to stop." The Drakthor leaned forward slightly, its massive head moving toward Jake's extended hand. He could feel its breath now, hot and carrying that strange metallic scent. He could see his own reflection in those crystalline teeth. could see how small and vulnerable he was compared to this magnificent creature. Time seemed to slow down. Jake was aware of everything. The beeping of Amy's scanner, Ben's heavy breathing behind him, the absolute silence from the Vorath crowd above, the pounding of his own heart, and the Drakthor, close enough now that its scales almost touched his fingertips. The creature's nose, or what passed for a nose on its alien face, touched Jake's palm. The contact sent a jolt through him, but he kept his hand steady. The Drakthor's skin was surprisingly warm, the scales smooth and hard. The beast inhaled deeply, learning Jake's scent, processing information about him that humans couldn't even imagine. Then something incredible happened. The Drakthor pressed its head more firmly against Jake's hand, leaning into the touch like it was starved for contact that wasn't violent. A sound came from its chest, that deep rumbling that had been a growl before, but now it was different. It was almost like a purr, if a purr could shake the floor beneath their feet. Jake's other hand came up slowly, and he placed it on the creature's scaled face. He could feel the warmth of its skin, could feel the muscles beneath the armor-like exterior. The Drakthor closed its eyes, all 6 of them at once, and made that rumbling sound again. "That's it," Jake said softly. "See? This is better than fighting, isn't it? This is what you've been missing. Connection, understanding, respect." Amy's voice came from behind him, filled with wonder. "Captain, the scanner readings are incredible. Its stress hormones are dropping rapidly. Neural patterns are changing. It's experiencing something it hasn't felt in a very long time." "What?" Jake asked, not taking his attention from the creature. "Peace," Amy said simply. Jake began to move his hands gently, exploring the Drakthor's face, finding places where the scales met, places that might be sensitive. He found a spot behind one of the creature's ear ridges, a place where the scales were smaller and more delicate. When he scratched there gently, the Drakthor made a sound of pure contentment. The transformation was complete. The terrifying apex predator, the unkillable beast that had slaughtered thousands, was now leaning into Jake's touch like a dog being petted by a beloved owner. It was seeking comfort, seeking the connection it had been denied for 3,000 years. Jake began to walk slowly to the side, and the Drakthor followed him. Not stalking, not hunting, but walking alongside him like a companion. The creature's massive body moved with grace, its 6 legs carrying it smoothly across the arena floor. It stayed close to Jake, close enough that he could reach out and touch it at any time. "This is impossible," Ben said, his weapon now hanging forgotten at his side. "I'm watching it and I still don't believe it." "It's not impossible," Amy corrected, her scientific mind already working on theories. "It's just unprecedented. In all our studies of the Vorath, we never found evidence that they tried to establish bonds with other species. They conquer, they dominate, they use, but they never partner." Jake walked the Drakthor around the arena, his hand resting on its scaled shoulder. The creature moved with him, adjusted its pace to match his, kept its attention focused on him. Every few steps, the arena doors began to open. Heavy boots echoed through the chamber as Vorath warriors poured in, at least 20 of them, all carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. They spread out in a circle around Jake, Amy, Ben, and the Drakthor, their yellow eyes filled with purpose and violence. Jake felt the Drakthor tense beside him. The creature's body went rigid, muscles bunching beneath its scales. A low growl built in its chest, deeper and more threatening than anything Jake had heard before. But it didn't move. It stayed where it was, positioned between Jake and the approaching warriors. "Stand down," Jake said quietly, his hand pressing gently against the creature's shoulder. "Not yet. Let me try to talk first." The Drakthor glanced down at him with its 6 eyes, and Jake could see the conflict there. Every instinct the creature had was screaming at it to fight, to defend itself against the beings that had tortured it for thousands of years. But something held it back. Trust. The fragile new bond between it and this strange human who had shown it kindness. Ben moved to stand on Jake's other side, his weapon raised and ready. "Captain, there's too many of them. Even with the creature on our side, we can't fight them all." "We're not going to fight," Jake said firmly. He raised his voice, projecting it to carry across the arena. "Commander Zarkoth, this doesn't have to end in violence. We came here in peace. We're still offering peace. You can end this right now." "Peace." Zarkoth spat the word like it was poison. You humiliate me in front of my people. You corrupt our weapon with your human weakness. You dare to lecture the Vorath Empire on strength when you hide behind a beast you claim to have tamed. There will be no peace. There will be no mercy. You will die here, and your ship will be destroyed, and your Earth will learn what happens to those who defy us." The warriors took another step forward, tightening the circle. Jake could see their claws flexing on their weapons, could see the anticipation in their postures. They wanted this fight. They needed to restore their pride, to prove that the natural order hadn't been broken by what they had witnessed. Amy stepped closer to Jake, her scanner still recording. Even now, facing death, her scientific curiosity hadn't abandoned her. "Captain, I need to tell you something. The Drakthor species. I've been analyzing the data. They're pack animals, social creatures. They evolved to form bonds, to work together. The Vorath kept it alone for 3,000 years. They broke the most fundamental part of its nature." Jake understood immediately. The Drakthor wasn't just responding to his kindness. It was desperate for connection, starved for the social bonds that its species needed to survive. The Vorath had taken a being that was meant to live in a community and isolated it, turned it into a weapon, denied it everything that made life worth living. "I'm sorry," Jake said softly, speaking to the creature beside him. "I'm sorry for what they did to you. I'm sorry you've been alone for so long. But you're not alone anymore. I'm here. My friends are here, and we're not going to let them hurt you anymore." The Drakthor made a sound that was almost like a whimper, a sound filled with centuries of pain and loneliness. It pressed closer to Jake, its massive body trembling slightly. Jake reached up and scratched behind its ear ridge again, that spot that seemed to bring it comfort. One of the Vorath warriors, braver or more foolish than the others, charged forward with a roar. His weapon was raised, aimed at Jake's chest, but he never made it. The Drakthor moved with speed that seemed impossible for something so large. One massive paw swept out, catching the warrior in the chest and sending him flying backward. He crashed into two of his companions, and all three went down in a tangle of limbs and armor. The other warriors froze, reminded suddenly of what they were facing. The Drakthor stood over Jake protectively, its 6 eyes blazing with amber fire. The creature's mouth opened, revealing those crystalline teeth, and it roared. The sound shook the entire arena, vibrating through bone and metal and stone. It was a warning and a challenge. It was the sound of a being that had finally found something worth protecting. Jake placed his hand on the Drakthor's side again. "Easy," he said. "I know you want to fight them. I know you want to make them pay for everything they've done. But that's not who you really are. That's what they made you. You're better than that." The creature looked down at him, and Jake saw something incredible in those alien eyes. Understanding. The Drakthor understood what he was saying. Not the words, but the meaning behind them. It understood that Jake was asking it to choose peace over violence, to be the being it was meant to be rather than the weapon the Vorath had created. Slowly, the Drakthor settled back, though it remained alert and protective. Its eyes never left the Vorath warriors, tracking each one, ready to defend if needed. But it didn't attack. It waited, trusting Jake's judgment. Commander Zarkoth's voice boomed through the speakers again. "Warriors, destroy them all. That is a direct order from your commander." But the warriors hesitated. They had seen what the Drakthor could do. They had watched it kill thousands over the years, and now they saw it standing with the humans, protecting them, following the commands of a creature they considered weak and inferior. It challenged everything they believed about strength and dominance. A new voice cut through the tension. It was female, older, carrying an authority that made even Zarkoth pause. "Enough." Jake looked up to see a Vorath female stepping onto the viewing platform beside the commander. She was smaller than the male warriors, but her scales were a deeper red, almost purple, and they were marked with symbols that suggested great age and status. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent, studying the scene below with an intensity that made Jake feel exposed. "High Matriarch Sharana," Zarkoth said, and there was surprise in his voice. "I did not expect you to attend this execution." "Fortunate that I did," the matriarch replied. Her voice was clearer through the speakers than Zarkoth's, more refined. "What I see here is not an execution. It is a revelation." She stepped to the edge of the platform, looking down at Jake and the Drakthor. "Human Captain, your name is Jake Morrison, correct?" "Yes, matriarch," Jake called back. "Tell me, Captain Morrison, how did you accomplish what you have done?" What trick did you use? What weapon or technology allowed you to control the Drakthor? No trick, Jake replied. No weapon. Just respect. Just recognition that the Drakthor is a living being, not a tool. Just the understanding that every creature, no matter how different, wants to be understood rather than feared. Shar'ana was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke again. In 3,000 years, the Drakthor has never been controlled. We could contain it, we could aim it, but we could never truly master it. Yet you, in less than an hour, have formed a bond that our greatest warriors could not achieve in millennia. How Jake took a breath, choosing his words carefully. With respect, matriarch, you didn't want to form a bond. You wanted to dominate. You wanted a weapon. But the Drakthor isn't a weapon. It's a being that was meant to live in a pack, to have family and friends. You isolated it, hurt it, forced it to kill. You turned it into a monster. But underneath all that pain and anger, the real creature was still there, waiting for someone to see it. Lies, Sharkoth growled. Human deception. The Drakthor is an animal, nothing more. A dangerous predator that must be controlled through force. Then explain what we're all seeing, Shar'ana said sharply. Explain how this human stands unharmed while our warriors hesitate to approach. Explain how the creature follows his commands and seeks his touch. Explain how, for the first time in recorded history, the Drakthor has not killed what was placed before it. Sharkoth had no answer. His face twisted with rage and confusion. The foundation of his worldview was crumbling, and he didn't know how to stop it. Amy moved forward slightly, still keeping close to Jake and the Drakthor. Matriarch, if I may. I'm Dr. Amy Carter, xenobiologist. I've been scanning the Drakthor since we entered the arena. The data is clear. This species evolved as social pack animals. Their brain structure shows areas dedicated to social bonding, to emotional connection, to cooperation. By keeping it alone for 3,000 years, you were slowly killing it psychologically. We kept it alive, Sharkoth protested. We fed it. We maintained its health. You maintained its body, Amy corrected, but you starved its mind and its heart. Social species need connection to truly live. Without it, they become shadows of what they should be. The Drakthor has been suffering every day of its captivity, not just from physical pain, but from loneliness and isolation. The Drakthor made a low sound, almost like agreement. It pressed closer to Jake, and he could feel the creature trembling. He realized it was crying in whatever way its species cried. Tears didn't fall from its eyes, but the pain was evident in every line of its body. Jake wrapped his arms around the creature's neck as far as they would reach. It's okay, he whispered. You're not alone anymore. I promise you're not alone. Shar'ana watched this display with an unreadable expression. Finally, she spoke. Commander Sharkoth, order your warriors to stand down. This engagement is over. Matriarch, I protest. The humans must be punished for their defiance. The only thing I see that needs punishment is our own ignorance, Shar'ana replied coldly. High Matriarch Shar'ana stood at the edge of the viewing platform, her purple-red scales catching the harsh arena lights. The silence stretched out, heavy with anticipation. Every Vorath warrior, every spectator, every member of the crew aboard the Frontier Dawn watching through their feeds, waited for her decision. Finally, she spoke. The Drakthor has been the property of the Vorath Empire for 3,000 years. It has served as executioner, as symbol of our power, as reminder of our dominance. To release it would be to admit that we were wrong. Jake's heart sank, but he kept his hand on the creature beside him. The Drakthor sensed his distress and made a low, questioning sound. However, Shar'ana continued, and her voice carried a note of something that might have been respect. To keep it after what we have witnessed today would be cruelty of the highest order. And while the Vorath Empire is many things, we are not needlessly cruel to those who have served us. She turned to look at Commander Sharkoth. The creature has fulfilled its purpose. For 3,000 years it has served. It has earned its freedom if freedom is what it chooses. Matriarch, you cannot be serious, Sharkoth protested. The Drakthor is our most powerful weapon. To give it to the humans is to give them power over us. I am not giving them a weapon, you fool, Shar'ana snapped. I am releasing a being from unjust captivity. There is a difference, though I see now that you lack the wisdom to understand it. She looked back down at Jake. Captain Morrison, the Drakthor may leave with you, if it wishes, but I must ask, what will you do with it? Your ship is small. You have limited resources. Are you prepared to care for a creature of this size and power? Jake thought about his ship, about the cargo bay that could be converted, about the supplies they would need. It would be difficult, maybe impossible, but looking at the Drakthor, at the hope and fear mixed in those 6 amber eyes, he knew there was only one answer. "We'll figure it out," Jake said. "That's what humans do. We adapt, we find solutions, and we don't abandon those who trust us." The Drakthor pressed its massive head against Jake's shoulder, a gesture of affection and trust that made several Vorath warriors shift uncomfortably. The sight of their ultimate weapon acting like a tame pet was clearly disturbing to their worldview. "Very well," Sharana said. "Guards, escort the humans and the Drakthor to their shuttle. Any warrior who interferes will answer to me personally." The circle of Vorath warriors parted reluctantly, creating a path to the arena exit. Jake, Amy, and Ben began walking, with the Drakthor moving alongside them. Its 6 legs carried it with grace, and it stayed close to Jake, occasionally looking down at him as if to confirm he was still there. As they walked through the corridors of the Vorath ship, other aliens stopped to stare. Some showed anger, others confusion. A few showed something that might have been curiosity. Word of what happened in the arena was spreading quickly through the ship. "Captain," Amy said quietly as they walked, "do you realize what you've done? You've changed the Vorath Empire's entire perspective on strength and dominance. This is going to have ripple effects through their entire society." "I just did what felt right," Jake replied. "I saw a creature in pain and I tried to help it. I didn't think about politics or philosophy." "That's what makes it so powerful," Amy said. "You acted from compassion, not strategy. You treated the Drakthor as a being worthy of respect, not as a tool or a threat. That's something the Vorath never even considered as an option." They reached the shuttle bay where their small craft waited. The Vorath guards watched as the humans climbed aboard, but they backed away quickly when the Drakthor approached. The creature looked at the small shuttle, then at Jake, uncertainty clear in its expression. "It's okay," Jake said, patting the shuttle's entrance. "It's safe. I know it's small, but it's just a short ride to our ship. Then we'll have more room." The Drakthor hesitated, then carefully squeezed its massive body through the shuttle door. It was a tight fit, and the shuttle's internal space became very crowded very quickly. Ben had to press himself against the wall to avoid being crushed by the creature's bulk. Amy ended up partially sitting on one of the Drakthor's legs, her scanner still recording data. Jake took the pilot seat and began the launch sequence. "Frontier Dawn, this is Morrison. We're coming back, and we're bringing a guest, a very large guest. You're going to want to clear out Cargo Bay 2 and set up some kind of comfortable space." Lieutenant Hayes' voice came through the comm, confused and concerned. "Sir, did you say a guest? What happened down there? We've been trying to monitor, but the Vorath blocked our signals." "I'll explain everything when we dock," Jake said. "Just trust me and get that cargo bay ready. We're going to need a lot of space." The shuttle disconnected from the Vorath ship with a hiss of equalizing pressure. As they moved away, Jake could see the massive warship through the viewport, could see the faces of Vorath warriors watching from their windows. He wondered what they were thinking, what stories they would tell about this day. The Drakthor made an anxious sound as the shuttle engines powered up. It had probably never been in a spacecraft while conscious before. Jake reached back and placed his hand on the creature's scaled head. "It's all right," he said. "Just a little while longer. Then you'll be somewhere safer, somewhere better." The creature calmed at his touch, that rumbling purr sound vibrating through the shuttle's interior. Amy was studying her scanner with wide eyes. "Captain, you need to see this data. The Drakthor's biological readings are incredible. Its stress levels have dropped by 70% since you first made contact. Its heart rate is normalizing. The chemical signatures in its system suggest it's experiencing something like joy." "Good," Jake said simply. "It deserves to feel joy." The Frontier Dawn grew larger in the viewport, its familiar shape a welcome sight after the tension of the Vorath ship. Jake guided the shuttle into the docking bay with practiced ease. As soon as they touched down and the airlock sealed, he could hear his crew gathering outside, their voices a mixture of excitement and concern. The shuttle door opened, and Jake stepped out first. His crew started to cheer, then fell silent as the Drakthor emerged behind him. The creature had to crouch to fit through the door, and when it straightened to its full height in the docking bay, several crew members backed away in fear. "Everyone, stay calm," Jake commanded. "This is our guest. It's not a threat. It's a friend." Lieutenant Hayes stepped forward, his eyes wide but his posture steady. "Captain, with all due respect, that thing is enormous. How are we going to keep it on the ship? Not it, Jake corrected gently. He looked at the Drakthor, at its 6 eyes watching the new humans with curiosity and caution. We need to give it a name. Something better than Drakthor. Amy smiled. What about Shadow? Look at how its scales catch the light. Like shadows and darkness, but with hints of color underneath. Jake nodded. Shadow, I like it. He looked up at the creature. What do you think? Does Shadow work for you? The creature, Shadow, made a pleased rumbling sound and pressed its head gently against Jake's shoulder. The gesture was so clearly affectionate that several crew members relaxed visibly. If the captain could stand that close to the creature without fear, maybe it really was safe. Over the next few hours, the crew worked to prepare Cargo Bay 2 for their new passenger. They moved out equipment, set up comfortable bedding using spare crash foam and thermal blankets, and installed additional air circulation. Shadow watched the activity with interest. Its 6 eyes tracking every movement, but it stayed close to Jake the entire time. Amy spent most of the time scanning Shadow and analyzing the data. Captain, I've been thinking. Shadow's species must still exist somewhere. It can't truly be the last one. The Vorath found it on a conquered world. But that doesn't mean they eliminated the entire species. We should try to find Shadow's homeworld. That's a good idea, Jake agreed. But first we need to get through the diplomatic discussions with the Vorath. Shar'ana wants to establish formal relations. As if summoned by the mention of her name, a communication request came through from the Vorath flagship. Jake took it in his ready room with Shadow lying on the floor nearby, too large to fit anywhere else. Shar'ana's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired but satisfied. Captain Morrison, I wanted to speak with you privately before the formal negotiations begin. What you did today, what you showed us, it has caused significant discussion among our leadership. I imagine Commander Zarkoth isn't happy, Jake said. Zarkoth has been removed from command, Shar'ana replied bluntly. His inability to see beyond traditional warfare and domination makes him unsuitable for the new challenges we face. What you demonstrated today, this ability to form bonds instead of simply conquering, it is a skill the Vorath Empire needs to learn. She paused, choosing her words carefully. We have been expanding through this galaxy for thousands of years, taking what we want, dominating those weaker than us. It has made us powerful, but it has also made us isolated. We have no true allies, only conquered subjects and fearful neighbors. Perhaps it is time to try a different approach. I hope you mean that, Matriarch, Jake said, because humanity would welcome peaceful relations with the Vorath. We have much to offer each other, if we can move past the need for dominance. Entire empire will end.